Hello, welcome to another Tweedy Outdoors video. I'm in Goring. I'm going to do a walk to the bell at Aldworth again. It's actually the spring equinox today, and I really ought to by rights be in Avebury, but family stuff got in the way and it just didn't really work out. I note, sadly, the John Barleycorn has still yet to reopen. There's a for sale sign over there, so perhaps Breakspear, if they own the actual building, trying to find new owners. I think previously they were just looking for a new management team. It's a shame, I always really liked that place with its bar billiards table. So yes, the spring equinox, I think the official moment of equinox was sometime this morning, sort of 9 AM or something did it fall. March the 20th, 2025. And certainly the warmest day of the year so far. Getting up to 20 degrees, maybe 19, 20 degrees today. So I'm hoping to be finding signs of spring on today's walk. Bit of some kind of cherry blossom over there, I don't know if you can see that. This is the bridge where the road crosses over the Thames. We transition from Goring to Streatley. Nice views of the river. Almost feels inviting, doesn't it? Anyone for a dip in the Thames? Maybe not. Here is the view the other side. It's all looking very nice, isn't it? Here's some blackthorn, is that? Hawthorn, blackthorn, blackthorn I think. Over there is the famous Swan Hotel at Streatley. The waterside terraces there. Today we'll be doing a roaring trade, no doubt. I think I probably made the same remark before. There are a pair of signs here, one for Streatley and behind me one for Goring. And I've always felt they sort of face off against each other and compete. Streatley here brags of being a community speedwatch area, whereas Goring, twinned with Belém, was the RHS Britain in Bloom UK Best Small Town. Here I am walking through a bit of Streatley, the other side of the river. That's not very interesting commentary, is it? Some magnolia starting to flower over there in front of that thrice gabled cottage. Here at the Bull at Streatley, I have a decision. The most direct route to get to the bell at Aldworth is just to walk straight up that road, but it's not very pedestrian friendly. Doesn't have pavements or even good verges for quite a lot of it, and cars do tend to zip down there. It's a steep hill in places. So normally I would just wander off and follow a section of the Ridgeway, then cut across country where the footpaths allow, but I'm going to try a different route, going sort of this way up over a bit of, is that Streatley Hill instead today? So I think this little unassuming lane leading up here is in fact the car going past start of a footpath that'll take me up Streatley Hill for at least the first part in roughly the right sort of direction I want to go to get to the bell, and then I'll just have to sort of figure it out once the footpath peters out. Bit of a steep path up Streatley Hill to begin with. I don't know if you can just about, if I get my fat ugly head out the way, can you just about get a sense of the view? Perhaps I'll get the phone out and zoom in a bit. Maybe that's actually zooming in a bit too much, the classic problem. 5x zoom, overdoing it a bit. That's what it looks like with just 1x zoom. That's 2x zoom. But as we know now, 2x zoom is just 1x zoom plus digital. We're not going to do all that again, are we? I thought I got that all out of my system on the Seven Sisters. Well, this would be a better spot to stop and appreciate the view. It's all a little bit hazy today, isn't it? In a way, the sky, the air, still has a hint of winter about it. Maybe. That beneath us is the sprawl of, well, mostly Goring. I suppose you can see a little bit of Streatley, maybe. Of course, down there, if I can keep the phone straight for a moment, is the bridge I've just walked over. I suppose that's more Streatley, coming around the corner a little bit. It's less hidden by the trees. River Thames snaking around there. This panning's probably jerky and terrible, and there's that bridge again. I think this is more or less the top of the hill. I remember now, I've been here before, haven't I? Was that possibly on the tail end of a walk up to the bell at Aldworth previously? I think I came up to Streatley Hill for a bit more greenery after that. So we have seen the Streatley Hill mazes, turf mazes over there before. I'm not sure I can be bothered to go again. They're a little bit difficult to make out and of questionable antiquity. Might just be a relatively modern thing, who knows? Okay, I changed my mind. I'm going to take a quick look at the turf mazes here. Not always the easiest of things to see. I hope with the lighting and the conditions of the grass and everything, that is fairly visible. I think it's fairly visible looking at the screen here on the GoPro. No idea how old these are. They've been embellished, obviously, recently with a few rocks there. They're not a unique phenomenon either, are they, turf mazes? These crop up in various places. Is there more than one here? This is probably the most well-defined I think, if there is more than one. Nice bit of pine there for added variety. Quite pleasant, this common. This just called Common Wood or something, part of Streatley Hill. I think I'm fairly convinced now this is not going to be the quickest way to get to the bell at Aldworth. I'm on this windy path. Now perhaps I can put a map on screen so you can critique my poor judgment of route finding. Just wanted to do something a bit different. The Ridgeway is definitely the simplest way to do it. You do eventually have to divert off the Ridgeway, but it just looked like a big sort of dogleg, a big indirect route to get from there to the pub. As I said, the most direct route is just walking up that road that goes by the side of the Bull at Streatley, but it's not a particularly pleasant road to walk on. Oh well, I mean, I'm out in the fresh air, in the greenery, the sky's blue, I shouldn't complain. Slightly dramatic drop off from this field here. I think I'm going to meet a road at the bottom, and then I probably will end up back on that road up to Aldworth, we'll see. Something in the Prunus family, cherries, some such. A short section along a road here, as mentioned. I don't mind this a little bit too much because this is not that big. Big main road, it's a B road, but this is not that busy road that goes from Streatley to Aldgate. No, Aldgate. Old Trafford. Old Lang Syne. Aldworth. Aldworth, there we go. One of the olds. Any old iron. As advertised, here is a footpath, in fact a bridleway, which will cut off the next corner before I do eventually meet that B road I'm very keen to avoid. And that opens out onto this field. I think there is at least a bit of demarcation from tractor tracks. And look at all this flint rubble. Notice in that video of Berkhamsted, there seem to be a few flint rubble fans out there. What an embarrassment of riches here. It's just lying on the ground. Should be cladding a downland cottage, perhaps a pub. I am inevitably now on that road. I was trying to avoid the B something something. Should I put it on screen? Does it matter? 4-digit number. I assume it's national speed limit, isn't it? In the absence of any other signs. So cars do sometimes tear along here. To hopefully in the middle of the day, unless there's a mad rush to get to the bell for lunch. Might be that busy. Yes, that section along the road has been a bit of a nuisance. It's a false economy, really, me trying to make shortcuts like this, because, of course, when you're walking along the road, you have to keep stopping and getting on and off the verge, and it does slow progress down. But I'm in Westridge Green now. Cars. I'm in Westridge Green now, and I think from here I can take footpaths the rest of the way to the bell at Aldworth. This is presumably the green from which Westridge Green takes its name. Is it some connection to the Ridgeway, possibly? We're not far from the Ridgeway over there, the west of the Ridgeway. And down here is a dead end, which I think turns into a track. And that will more or less take me straight to the bell. This is a bit more like it, nice peaceful track now, and there'll be a footpath off to the left in a moment. Makes me want to buy some agricultural land on this side of the river here. A very narrow corridor, just to make a footpath that goes directly from Goring and Streatley to the bell without having to follow the road and without the big dog leg that going on the Ridgeway seems to be. I think I probably will just take the Ridgeway on the way back for the sake of variety. I don't want to walk down the road again. I've got a feeling somebody told me there is a more straightforward route. I suspect that's just following the Ridgeway and accepting that it's a bit longer. Was it Headley, maybe? I think Headley is a fan of the bell as well. Hi, Headley. I have a feeling I actually ended up at this spot last time I came to the bell. I'd walked down the same track but coming in this direction towards where I'm standing now, and then did this last little bit over the field. That time I did use the Ridgeway and a shortcut, just one more field to traverse. Are you suffering as much as I am now? Just get to the bleeding bell already, Tweedy. Right, I have made it. Crikey, it's busy.
Oh, is that right? I have no idea what that is.
Cheers from the bell. Very surprised by how busy it is today. It's a Thursday, not school holidays or anything like that, but I suppose there's a lot of retired people and so on come here, starting with a pint of their own beer, 5 Giants. had a quick word with the lady behind the bar saying I can't stomach anything grapefruity with American style hops, and she said we don't really do that sort of thing here, which is exactly the way I like it. This is I guess pure Fuggles and Goldings, slight sort of pepperiness almost to the bitterness there, very malty, very brown, nice bit of minerality. It's beautiful. It's the way beer used to taste before before everything went into decline. Moved on to Arkles. That is lovely. It's really gentle flavour to it. Delicately malty. Bitter, but not a big twang of bitterness to it. Just very pleasant, very quaffable. And I have one of the Bell's famous crusty rolls. I love the architecture of that. This sort of lateral joist of cheddar spanning the bread roll there. Comes with some accompaniments like chutney, and there's a bit of tomato there. I forewent the onion, wasn't really in an oniony mood. I've moved indoors, it's actually quieter, and moved on to a pint of their mild, I forget the name of the brew. This is fantastic. Soft, sort of malty character to it. It's really delicious. Very fortunate to briefly have this place to myself. Very special room. This is the tap room at the Bell at Aldworth, and my very first boss, as I said on a previous time that I came here, he said his idea of heaven was sitting in here with a pint of mild, and I am indeed right now sitting in here with a pint of mild, so cheers to you, Russ. Would like to add that I think the prices are incredibly reasonable here. My first pint and a cheese roll came to £9. I think the beers are typically £4.40 depending on the strength, and the bread roll with some wonderful farmhouse cheddar in it was £4.60. I sometimes think I despair of pub food, and then I come to places like this where it's simple but wonderful and very high quality and a decent price, and I think this is the way it always should have been. Seems important to include a shot of the gents. I think this has been described as the planetarium, a wonderfully alfresco experience for relieving oneself. No roof overhead, must be quite fun when it's pouring with rain. Also quite an impressive array of brick carving. That is going to be it from the Bell at Aldworth. Spectacular pub as always. Going to head back towards Goring and Streatley now. Still a glorious spring day, and I'm going to just do a more sensible route this time, back along the Ridgeway. Don't really want to be walking down the road again. Seems like a bit of an out of place spot to find. That's a cat's eye, isn't it, from a road? And this is certainly not a metal road. I'm just on this track heading towards the Ridgeway, hopefully. And what's that doing there? I am now, in effect, retracing the steps from the way to the Bell at Aldworth from the last time I did this trip. And that was in very glum weather. I don't know if any of you saw that video. I can't really recommend it. Very grey and overcast. And I remember thinking this landscape was all a bit underwhelming in those conditions. And yet, look at it now. I mean, all it really takes is a blue sky and even fairly run-of-the-mill farmers' fields start to look a bit interesting and appealing. And I don't know, was that a different time of year? I can't remember. There's a bit more green now. Maybe that's just the lighting conditions, a bit more green. And I remember this bank alongside the track from the previous time I did this walk. It's littered with, or peppered, what's the adjective I'm looking for? Peppered, littered with these holes, and I think these are rabbit warrens, aren't they? I assume these are where rabbits, some other small mammal lives. It's got to be rabbits, hasn't it? You wouldn't get that kind of density of badgers or foxes, would you? I enjoyed that time I was out filming in the Chilterns with Mr. WC21, and I paused to try and take some shots of some red kites, and he looked completely bored by them. Having lived previously in the Chilterns, If you're anywhere along these sort of chalky hills in this part of the country, I know we're not quite in the Chilterns here, we're over in the Berkshire Downs, but it's a similar terrain and they are pretty much just two a penny. They've been a very, very successful reintroduction into the English landscape. I think some people even argue maybe too successful by now. A warning sign there reminding that there is a gas pipeline here. I am quite glad now that I left my JCB at home. Again, this landscape looks so dramatically different in these weather conditions, this lighting, than it did last time I walked along here. I am, as I say, retracing almost exactly the same route that I did on the way to the Bell at Aldworth. Now I'm doing it on the way back from the Bell at Aldworth. And there is a cut through here, a path that will eventually connect with the Ridgeway, or the Ridgeway National Trail. I don't know if this bit is on top of the hill, so whether or not it is the historical Ridgeway versus just a modern convenience, I don't know. Pheasants in a field over there. The lighting's not very good, I'm pointing into the sun, aren't I? Here I am joining what is properly the Ridgeway National Trail. Runs along what is sort of a barely maintained metal road here, but then a little bit further up there it does turn into more of a proper walking track slash possibly bridle path, I don't know. And this will take me quite straightforwardly back to Streatley. More, I don't know, something in the Prudis family I want to say again. It does look quite wild cherry-ish. Bit of a view from here over what I suppose are the plains of the River Thames around Goring and Streatley. Back on a main road now, and look, there is actually a Ridgeway sign here. I think that way it follows the road, and back there it followed that little road I was walking along. It's an interesting run of buildings here in Streatley in the lead up to the church there. Back over the bridge once again, there is the Swan Hotel behind me. Goring Lock down there. I assume some of you have been watching Ed Pratt's videos of his journey from the source of the Thames down to the mouth of the Thames. He must have passed through there. Having one last quick pint at the Catherine Wheel. Still not quite how I remember it from the early days when I first knew this pub. I suppose getting on for a quarter of a century ago now, but this end of the pub's still pretty nice with this Inglenook fireplace here. I hope that's been of some vague interest. That surprisingly long trudge to get to the Bell at Aldworth and back. It was about 8 miles, I think, in total. Probably if you just walk straight up the road, it's closer to 7, but there we go. Anyway, cheers. Thanks very much for watching from here at Goring and Streatley Station, and I will see you on the next one.